Hello and welcome back to part 2 of the TT podcast with James Hillier, and we left not even discussing the TT, we were discussing Dakar, and obviously you're a fond fan of that. Fond fan? That's fine, isn't it? You love a bit of rallying, don't you, Steve? That's what
hey,
I'm
listen,
trying to say.
I'm a massive, I'm not very good, I'm a massive fan of off-road, especially enduro and trials. Yeah, not very good though. But no, I very nearly entered the Dakar quite a few years ago. Anyway, it all fell apart. It's a massive expense now, huge.
Mm-hmm.
Probably 2.5 times more now, the entry, than for the event than what it was when I was going to enter. Yeah, huge amount.
I think I know when. It's a beautiful segue, this. I think I know the moment when James decided to go to the Dakar. As he crested over, coming out of Ballagarey, bikes going everywhere, and he went, you know what, if I can do it on this, I can go to the Dakar.
Too easy.
Yeah, innit? So take us back to that moment, because it's been viewed on YouTube hundreds of millions of times. It's one of, I don't know if you should be proud of it or not, but...
Well, I'm still here. I think that's...
Yeah, that's the main thing, right?
And funnily, when it happened, I thought, that's something I probably want to try and forget about. And
I'm bringing it up here.
Well, honestly, I gave up, because it is brought up. It was good for the sponsors, and the TT used it a fair bit on the intros, and it was a spectacular moment, I suppose. And for me, as a rider, when it happened, and people always say, "God, you must have shat yourself," and I was like, but as a racer, and you all know again, Steve, because your brain is kind of a step ahead. By the time I'd assessed what had happened, it was over. So I was like, my instinct was just to keep going. The first thing I thought was, Hutchie's going to catch me, because I was 3, Hutchie was 4, and that year in 17, it was tight with me and Hutchie in the Superbike race, and I really desperately wanted to win that race, and it was. It was hairy, I wouldn't want to do it again, that's for sure.
Had you done anything different approaching it, coming out of it?
Exactly as I always do, and for sure, lap 1 of any race, full tank of fuel, new tyre, that you respect that corner even with a half a tank and a good tyre. It was.
He rode it different the next lap.
Yeah, to be honest, I didn't. When we there was an issue with the rear shock there, because I come out of that and I was riding past Crosby Pub thinking, what the hell happened there? I was thinking, have I got a puncture or something's weirdly wrong? And I did the next jump at Crosby, and when I landed, it went again nowhere near the same, but not normal. And I thought something's up, so I kind of rolled off, and I thought, I'm not quitting, but I'm just gonna. I think we were riding around about 10th position, and then they red flagged it later on in that race, and I come back. As soon as I stopped, I jumped off the bike and I bounced the bike, and it was just like a bare spring, like a pogo stick. Really? It was nothing, no damping, and I was a bit relief really, because I knew that was
You've got a reason for it.
What happened. So we, in between the stoppage and the restart, we quickly put the shock in out the super stock bike, and I went round there exactly as I always have done. I think it's important here to. You got to listen and learn from everything the bike tells you. So from that, for me, the big thing was that I reacted to that situation. I thought, rather than some riders may have just ignored that and thought, oh, whatever, go and kept going, and then it'll bite you somewhere else. So I was like, geez, I was very lucky to kind of ride out of that. Something's up. I can't do what I would like to do, so I'm just going to take that on the chin, reset, and there was a little bit of apprehension in the restart with because obviously it was after putting more thought into it, I thought that could have been very, very bad. I was fairly content with just finishing 4th in the restart and getting on the boat home and try again another year. It was but it was quite funny. I told the guys I had a moment at Ballagarey, and didn't really go into detail, because I thought, what's the point, they'll never really appreciate what happened. But I didn't realise they had it on the telly, so when they watched it back on the thingy, they were like, it was.
So did Did you save it, or did it it save itself? You know what I'm talking about.
I would say more. You know, I'm not going to take credit and try and act like a big man. It was I just frigging held on for dear life, and I think Guy Martin spoke about it years ago, and the whole of laws of physics, you know, and the gyration of the wheels and the wind speed either side of me, everything, you know, as long as I held on to that, it would have somewhat pulled itself.
Doesn't it?
I think the fact it left the ground helped, you know, because it, and then it tidied up, and I was, it wasn't. I'm not going to take credit for it really. I just, you know, obviously there was a degree. I'm sure if somebody else in that situation may have crashed, but I'm sure there's also plenty of people that would have done as I did and stayed on. So it was, I just held on, you know, literally, as the saying is, held on for dear life, and but I didn't have time to get scared. Yeah. I had time afterwards to process it and think something's up. I've got to react to that and move forward, because I think you're a fool if I was to have, you know, I probably wouldn't be here if I hadn't listened to that and been sensible.
So if there's nothing wrong with the shock and you come around there as you do every time, and it happens to do that, and you have no explanation for it, does it kind of make you think? Because you've always been kind of vocal about, everyone knows the dangers of the TT, but you're pretty vocal about it, and you're not afraid to say, you know, it scares me every now and again. If you can't explain that and it happens, you're like, is that a moment where you think, do I really want to do this anymore, or not?
That's where I think I'd draw the line. If I was at that point of, if I was riding around here like that and having moments like that and couldn't explain it or understand it, you know, I think people say we're nuts or whatever, but everything has to be calculated to especially to ride here for as many years as we sort of do, or intend to, or whatever. It, you know, like you do a little brake check. If ever I have a head shake or something, and I'm coming up to say Ballagarey Bridge or something, before I even get there, I'll just check with my finger. I'll just be like, yep, brake's there, you know. And I the more TTs I do, the probably more I do that, just because you hear these stories and see, you know, it's just you've got to respect it and be sensible, you know. And I think from the riders I sort of mostly speak with, you know, I think we're all quite like that, and I think from the outsiders looking in, I think we're just, and some riders are loonies, they just go out there and ride flat out and don't think about little bits like just the odd brake check, or, you know, from the second I ride off from the start line, I'm listening to the bike, feeling things, checking clutch, listening for clutch slip, vibrations, foot peg movement, or anything like that could be loose, or, you know, and processing so much stuff, and it just for safety and endurance, really, to make sure we can get to the end of the race. It's and I think that's, you know, credit to the team with the amount of finishes we've had from the starts. And reliability is a big part, but the rider also has a big part in that, to look after the bike and get it to the finish. And sometimes you have to ride around problems, and, you know, for me, I hate the thought of going home thinking, I could have finished that race, or, you know, if I hadn't have done that or ridden like this, then it might have got back, because it's a long year to wait, isn't it, to come back and do it again.
Yeah. So how many of those moments have you had when you've been sat on the ferry on the way back and you've gone, I just wish I'd have, like you said, I think you said in part one about, you know, there's moments where you are at 95% throttle, but you should be at 100, because you've had one win at the TT. You're clearly talented enough to have more, but where is it missing for you to go that extra step to get those wins?
I think now I need to try and ride a bike more. I think that's a big part of, and I mean that period of the TT where it's transitioned, and certainly Pete and Dean have took it to that next level of, you know, when I started road racing here particularly, it was often a case of, like, you don't ride 100%, or, you know, you ride to a degree, and you know, you wouldn't really commit in a number of corners here where you would on a short circuit. But the last sort of 4 or 5 years, it's you have to ride a lot of the course short circuit, you know. And you see the footage and the pictures of, and that's where it's at, you know, which don't no, if I'm totally honest, it's unless you're totally in the right zone, it's very hard to ride it. You can't force that sort of feeling to be confident to ride here like that. You have to have a lot of faith in yourself and the machine, and that only comes from hours and hours and hours of saddle time, maybe riding British Championship in that environment. I don't know. But then, you know, in 15, my argument with myself more than anything is, in 15, I rode the least I've ever ridden pre-TT. Honestly,
really,
like I couldn't tell you exactly what I did, but I only just scraped the license signatures and blah blah blah. You know, it was like, I was like, well, Bruce does it, you know, I know he is a bit bionic. How that man is no one will ever quite understand how he does it. But I thought if it's good enough for Bruce, it's good enough for me, and I kind of can relate to Bruce a little bit in that way I did the least riding I've ever done. I had the best TT I've ever had to date, and I've not gone faster since. You know, even though I've been on much really more powerful bikes.
Yeah.
And on paper, better bikes, but something just clicked that TT in 15, and you know, looking back, I feel like I've pushed a lot harder, but gone nowhere, not as quick. So it's, you know, and back then 32.4 was, you know, that would have put me right up there even this year. You know, with doing a little bit. I can't really put a reason to it, but might sound odd or bad, but I struggle to get the motivation to go racing at BSB. I watch it on telly sometimes and wish I was there, but I don't know.
Is it what the lack of thrill or the danger?
I wouldn't say it's boring, but I did Silverstone at the start of the year, and it's like 5 bloody corners. You know, you're doing 5 corners 30 times. It's like, what?
Yeah, I think that is a bit of a one-off, but the Silverstone.
You know, the big track there is amazing. I did a track there a couple of months ago, and it was with Crescent, and it was that big circuit, the Silverstone, was brilliant. You know, so I don't know. I don't. I sort of get a bit more. I'm at the point in life where I get a bit more back from taking my lad motocross and going out and doing enduro or something like that. But then I've got to sort of weigh it up of where I want to be, you know. I always go back to that 2015 with the least riding. You know, I did that lap time, and I don't know. I can't really, you know. So I can obviously do it with, and I don't believe that lap I would have been attacking every corner, pushing the front. You know, right? It just worked. You know, it worked. Do
you think it's because she's more relaxed, less riding, more relaxed? Maybe not quite the want through being relaxed.
Yeah. I need to sort of figure it out, really, because it would help, wouldn't it? But again, sometimes with bike racing you can't explain. Like sometimes you have a bad day, you can't. Like this TT didn't go particularly as I wanted, and I can't really explain why I couldn't quite get the lap speed. Like in the same manner, I can't explain how I got the lap speed back then when it was all how I got it all right that year and did those lap times. So it's a funny old game when you're chasing that feeling. And the harder you try to find that feeling, the further away it becomes, isn't it? Yeah. It's frustrating, but that's bike racing.
So moving forward, in part 1 you mentioned that you don't really have any intention of stopping racing, but it also feels like, not that you're not prepared, but it feels like you're going to have to go a long way to get to where Dean and Pete is, and by the sound of it, you're not sure if you can even go there. I think I know I can go there because I want to win, and I wouldn't come here if I didn't think that. So it's just you know, to be honest, I felt pretty at home with for a new team. I felt good this year with OMG, and the vibe in the garage was, in the awning was good, and I trust in the guys. It was just a few little numbers here and there, and it would have just almost then gained a bit more momentum, and you know, it's the time's almost come in chunks. You know, I was kind of like tethering around there, but if one setting throughout a whole lap, you know, it's not like when you're trying to find 3 or 4 tenths at a BSB meeting on a short circuit. 3 or 4 tenths around here is, you know, a big chunk. It's put 2 or 3 mile an hour, you know, on over a lap.
it's just little bits. There's no big bit missing. It's just little things. So I
guess my main question was, you're still coming back to the TT because you want to win, not just because you want to kind of ride around here.
No,
you still want to win it.
Yeah, I want to be on there. I want to that's my goal really. And I know it's not easy, but it's achievable. It's definitely. Otherwise, I wouldn't be trying.
On that bike as well, like you say, once the setup's there.
I think the Yamaha is capable. Yeah. Again, otherwise I wouldn't really. I think people say this and that about other bikes, but it's got to be reliable and they're all quite similar. They have some have little advantages here and there, but I really enjoyed that Yamaha this year. In the last race, although it was frustrating, it was at points, but I felt that comfortable feeling was really coming with it. It was the last lap would have been quite strong, but we had a yellow flag and the wind was bad, wasn't it, this year? That definitely had a hampered lap speed, so it wasn't a true gauge of. I don't think I'd have bettered my 15 lap, but I'd definitely have. The ideal last lap of that over that race was pretty good, So
would you put, because this 22 lap times on the smaller classes, the lap records. However, on the big bikes and the super bikes, they were significantly lower, really. And you think that's why it was just purely the conditions, the wind, and various other factors?
Yeah, I think. Yeah, wind was
with the whole paddock. I mean,
and the track was pretty rough in some sections, which I think the climb at the mountain was lovely, but it was pretty quick before that anyway. It wasn't. I think it's the high-speed bumpy sections which hold you back. There wasn't a massive gain on the mountain climb with the new surfaces. But you lost a chunk through the even Solby. I don't know how much time we'd have lost through there, but it was nowhere near as easy as it used to be, or less hard than it used to be. It was, I'm not saying it's easy, but the general lap was hard work this year, and that's why we didn't see the lap times quite where they were. So. Like for Davey, credit to him to jump up to the 32s with the track the way it was. He was pushing on and
quite literally jumping.
And Connor was 33s, wasn't he? So it's not saying it wasn't achievable, because they were some.
Yeah.
I think had they ridden like that in 19, their lap times would have been another chunk on. So it's all moving forward still. It's not getting any easier.
So in part one, we mentioned your build-up towards the Dakar for January. Anything else on the James Hillier bucket list that you want to... That's not saying you're an old boy, because you're still relatively young. Anything else on the bucket list that you would like to achieve, not just at the TT, but other disciplines, other venues, other sports?
I'm very grateful. I think I've been able to do quite a few cool things and been not off the top of my head. No, I don't think if I can do Dakar and get my bloody house finished, that's a bucket list.
Dakar and the house,
and then we'll probably potentially sell it and start again. So that's an ongoing bucket, isn't it? Yeah. Well,
it's a bucket with a hole in it, isn't it?
Oh God,
huge hole.
Yeah. So I don't know. I think obviously I'm definitely not getting any younger. I just feel like things your perception of life and sort of what my achievement to me might not be what some people go out and chase a fancy car, the private number plate, and that doesn't interest me. I rather have wholesome things that I can sort of cherish, and achievements and things I've done, rather than things I can show. So it's I don't know. I'd like to, me and the wife, we sort of talk about trying to go travelling with the kids and that, in somewhere in the world where we might be safe. At the moment it's all a bit messed up, isn't it? But just make the most of being here while we can, really. I suppose it's scary how, and I remember my parents telling me how you'll soon be old and be grown up before you know it, and you think that they don't know what they're talking about, and you'll be young forever. And I'm probably starting to realise that a bit more, and which is sort of putting more pressure on trying to do stuff and tick things off. So,
so what about your 3 kids, your lad? We've seen him around the paddock on his little bikes and stuff. Daddy, I want to do the TT.
No way.
I love that.
How can you be so hypocritical?
Oh, although I'd love him to feel it and experience it, but I don't know.
Would you stop him or advise him?
I couldn't stop him. I'd advise him. I couldn't stop him. I don't think. I'd be so bad. I don't know what I'd do. I don't even want to think about it. I couldn't. I don't know.
And is your good wife of the same opinion?
Yeah, God, she'd rather me do something different, I think. But she also, on the other hand, knows how bloody miserable I'd be if I didn't do it. I think it's a bit of a balance there of, she I would say she knew what she was getting into when we first got together, and we're still together. So she gets it. I think, or she either gets it or she's given up trying to get it and just accepts it. I don't know, but yeah, I think I don't know with my kids. I just want them to chase their goals and dreams, and I try and keep them. Like now, that bloody YouTube and the modern world, innit? They watch shite and they think that's a lifestyle, like making videos about crap. And I just think,
that's how
although some of them do all right out of it, but it's not, for me and my wife, that's not how we see life. It's more about getting out and physically doing something rather than watching something. So, as long as I just want my kids to kind of chase their dreams, really, which is, I suppose, what I've done, and to follow my outlook on life and try and tick stuff off. I suppose it's about getting things done, isn't it? And
hugely, yeah.
I hate to break the mood, but I feel like we should address this. Anybody that's watching this and hasn't listened to part 1 yet, you might be able to hear the rain. We're obviously over on the Isle of Man, and if it's not blazing sunshine, it's pissing down with rain, and today it's pissing down with rain. So if you can hear that in the background, that's exactly what it is. Have we got some quickfire questions from you today, Steve?
I have.
Brilliant.
Got 10 questions.
Before we get onto them, the last one I wanted to do was last question I wanted to ask, and this revolves around the family as well. You can see the trophy behind you.
Yep.
You get your name etched onto it. Can you walk away from the sport?
Yep.
Is that the moment you would decide to, or
that would for me be job done? And I wouldn't walk away. I think I'll be involved with TT for the rest of my life, because it's such a massive, and also like the
with your son.
No, maybe he'd be a mechanic or something, or a marshal. I'll come a marshal with him or something. But I'm also quite keen to kind of share my knowledge I've gained here and experience here to help others not even come through the ranks, just to experience what the TT is about in it as safely as possible, because there's a few things I know now that I probably wish I knew a bit more. I first raced when I was 22, which I think for me, I think I was young. I did it. I wouldn't say I was a sensible 22-year-old. I was obviously sensible enough to come here but the mentality I had then, it kind of, you're quite constantly reminded how dangerous it is as you ride around here. But it worries me. I feel I could share quite a bit and help younger riders coming through, or even older riders that are coming here to tick stuff off, and just put something back in the pot of the whole TT passion, or even with the organisation. I don't know. Some way or another, I'll be involved with the TT for the rest of my life.
As long as your name's on that, though, that's the main thing.
Yeah, that's the primary goal. Yeah.
No pressure,
eh? We'll take Steve's off and just put it on.
No pressure.
Steve, let's hit him with some quickfire questions.
Right, 10 quickfire questions. You answer these. You have to answer this one or the other.
Right. Okay.
No descriptions. No excuses.
Yeah, okay.
No. Okay.
Okay.
Beer or wine?
Beer. Wine at Christmas.
Time trial or mass start?
These are hard quick fire questions, because it depends on.
I don't want an explanation. I want one or the other. Time trial, please.
Time trial.
Thank you. Pineapple or never pineapple on a pizza?
Pineapple.
Good lad. 2-stroke or 4-stroke?
For 2-stroke.
Hampshire or the Isle of Man?
Hampshire.
Joey Dunlop or John McGuinness?
Oh, Joey. Sorry, John. He'll understand.
Dakar win or a senior TT win?
Senior TT win.
Davo or Michael Dunlop?
Dave O's my teammate, isn't he? So
No explanations,
Davo.
please.
Davo.
Night out with the boys or a meal out with the wife?
Oh, God. Meal out the wife.
Yes. Yes or no? Would you swap your lightweight TT win for a superbike TT lap record?
No. Is
Thank
that
you.
it?
Yeah, it's 10
Oh.
questions.
Cool.
Job done.
He's very
tip-top.
nervous.
It did make me a bit hot, that, actually. But
Do you want to retract those answers, or
I think
You're
I'm
happy with them?
I think, I'm safe. I think I'm safe.
the missus will be happy? That's the main thing.
Exactly, yeah.
James, it's been an absolute pleasure. We look forward to
I
seeing you
enjoyed
next
it.
year.
Thank you.
There we have it, Steve. Any of those quickfire questions surprise you with James Hillier?
No, not really. I was a little bit surprised. I thought he may have said for the last question, swap his lightweight win for the fastest ever superbike lap. But
Do you think?
He'd certainly swap it for a superbike race win. But, you know, any win at the TT is a massive achievement.
But you can
Massive.
never take a win off somebody. You can. Someone's going to break a lap record eventually, but no one's going to take a
100%.
win off you.
Yeah.
Interesting guy, though. Really interesting.
Yeah, quite different to the majority of competitors that we speak to.
A typical motorcyclist.
Yeah.
It was amazing. Great
Interesting.
chat. This has been the James Hillier episode of the TT podcast. If you've enjoyed it, then please hit that subscribe button and leave us a rating and a review wherever you listen or watch your podcasts. We have plenty more star-studded names from the world of the TT on the way, and here's a little taste of what you can expect from our next guest, Connor Cummins.
I have a vague memory of I was airborne, like, you know, it was all going a bit wrong. I sat down with Chief Sector Marshal Mike. He was right on the corner. He basically said, "You're bang on line." Right at that moment that I went into the corner, he said it was windy, and he said it went really cold. Now I've gone down, but I think the most significant thing there, and this is what I've pinned it all on, was the wind was bad.
Yeah.
Because it was bad that day, like, you know, and that's what I've concluded that was the root cause of why I went down.
That next episode will be out next week, and don't forget, you can get all the latest TT news and features over at iomttraces.com. And be sure to check us out on all the usual socials. We are TT Racers Official. Thanks for listening.